Hi class. In this video, we're going to talk about the different kinds of chemical elements, and we're really focusing on the most common chemical elements that we would come across. So previously I'd mentioned that there's a big four set of chemical elements, right? So we're going to start with those, and then I'll tell you what it means to say these are the big four. Okay, so for all of these, I will tell you the name of the element and then the abbreviation. Okay, so the big four are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. And all of those have abbreviations that are capitalized first letter of their name. Right? So COHN, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, those are the big four. And what that means, these are all found in living organisms. And these make up around 95% of the mass of an organism. Okay, they make up around 95% of the mass of an organism. So when we think about, for this case anyway, and I know this isn't accurate, but for this case, just think mass as weight. Okay, so when you think about how much your dog or your cat weighs or how much you weigh, when you think of that stuff and you say, well, what causes me to weigh this much? You think of things like muscle and fat and bone and those kinds of things. But what makes up that stuff? What's a muscle cell made of? What's inside of a muscle cell? The proteins and things like that. These are the elements that are making up that stuff. So 95%, around 95% of your mass is made of these four things. Okay, so that's why these are the big four. Okay, and then we have several that are just referred to as trace elements. I told you there's around 25 total in living things. So if you kind of think your whole body is going to have around 25 different chemical elements, 95% of you are those first four. So the other 21 make up around 5%. So they're not very high quantities. That doesn't mean they're not important, but these are called trace elements. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a few common trace elements we find in biology and living organisms. Sodium. Now we're going to see with sodium, it has two letters in its abbreviation. And when that's true, the first is capitalized, the second is not. So the symbol for sodium is Na, capital N, small a. Okay, I know it's kind of like, really, dude, we've got to do this, but you've got to make sure you write chemical elements correctly. So if you were to write sodium like this, no good. You write sodium like this, no good. Right? So we need to make sure we're doing capital for the first letter, lowercase for the second. All right, calcium. Calcium is Ca. Potassium is K. So a couple of these, like the abbreviations make sense for most, but a couple like sodium and potassium, it's like potassium K. Where the heck did that come from? So a few of these, the chemical symbols come from things like Latin names and that kind of deal. So it may not look like it matches up really well. Chlorine is Cl. Magnesium is Mg. We're going to see magnesium in photosynthesis, really important for photosynthesis in plants. Phosphorus, P. Sulfur is S. iron is Fe. Right, so that's going to be our list of trace elements. I mean, there's obviously others we can do, but that's the set we're going to be doing just to kind of introduce you to some of those other elements that we have in living things. Right, so those are our common chemical elements. You could find all those on the periodic table and look at things like the atomic number, atomic mass, that kind of deal.